You're listening to Bros Let's Talk.
Hey, bros, let's talk. Pat here with Jimmy and Anthony. What's up, dudes?
Hello, gents.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing great. Beautiful Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Anthony's got some golf to get to, so we're going to make this a little quick, but we're continuing our series, Biography, WWE Legends on A&E. This episode focused on the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Before we jump into that, though, we got to do our Wet Bandits Softball.
Yes, we do.
Crowbars up.
Because we continue to have good news for all of our fans out there. The Bandits won their 5th game in a row this past week in probably one of the more exciting games that I've been involved in.
Yeah,
It was definitely a great game.
That was the best game that we've played.
It
Not
was-
that we've played, but I think that was the most exciting,
Yes.
most
I thought
fun
the same
game.
thing.
It had everything.
Yeah, we fell behind early,
We're down 10-2 after 2 innings.
stormed back, then coughed up the lead again, then got the lead back, and then held on to win. And against the team we were tied with in the standings as well. And we had 10 guys, but we had to go deep into our subs to fill the roster this week. So it felt good. It was a great win.
Well, we'd be remiss if we did not talk about the web gem at the end of the game.
I didn't want to bring it up, but
Dude, you know,
We sure
I
would
was
be.
I was looking at Jimmy's mouth. I was trying to figure out if he was gonna go or if I had to bring it up. But yes, Pat with the unbelievable play up the middle to not only save the ball but then crawl his way to get to the force at second and just lay his glove down right on the bag as if he were basically pulling his dick out and laying that down on their forehead.
So Pat had hurt his back
birdie.
the inning or two beforehand. And at this point, we were up 3 in the bottom of the 6th. It was going to be the last inning. We had 2 outs, bases loaded. And Pat makes a diving play at shortstop. If he doesn't get the ball, they score at least 2 runs, and the runner from first would be on second, maybe third. So that puts us in a very stressful situation. But he dove, got every inch of his body to that ball, and then crawled to second
Just
base.
literally crawled his.
And
Now I'm going to the chiropractor next week.
we and I don't think none of us brought this up, or maybe you guys didn't see it, but right after the play, like, we're all celebrating because it's not close. The guy was out by probably 3 steps. And I think it was their pitcher is looking at the ump like, well, did you make a call? Like, was he out? And the ump's like, yeah, he was out. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was I was definitely laboring out there. So I actually hurt my back originally last weekend I overdid it with yard work after
Oh, here we go with the yard work.
when we were
The
recording.
yard work.
I did 30 bags of mulch and just was out of commission basically all week and wasn't even sure if I was going to play on Tuesday, but then when we were I was feeling better, but just kind of knew if I pushed it, I'd probably get hurt again. But when we were, short on guys, I was like, all right, I got to play. Because me and Jimmy had talked Sunday. He's like, I could play you at first base, if you need to, just to kind of take it easy. And then Judd was out and Shawn was out. So it was like, all right, I'll be there. I'll play shortstop. Like, we'll figure it out. And I almost made it through the whole game. I was feeling fine. It was actually the second to last inning. Guy hit a rocket shot up the middle, and I tried to play it on a short hop, and it was just the way that I stepped. I just felt my back give out instantly. And then it was those last 2 innings where I was just kind of hoping that the ball didn't come to me. And of course I had to field like 4 balls in those next 2 innings. So I do what I can for the team, though. I love the Bandits.
I will say that is a fantastic segue into the Shawn Michaels thing. I don't know if we did that on purpose and it's a pretty damn good segue into HBK. If I'm not
pretty
Not-
decent segue into plus and a couple of sexy boys here
Man,
discuss what was another great documentary. I love this series. It's been so awesome. And Anthony, I know you've been talking to us outside of this, but I am going to try and figure out a way to watch the Dark Side of the Ring documentary on
Dude.
Vice because I've heard amazing things about that.
yeah, it's
Well, which is obviously just in the name itself focuses on like a lot of what these guys go through and how dark some of their lives are. But Shawn Michaels is another good case of kind of getting lost in the character and then pretty much almost losing everything because he just couldn't turn it off. But it was interesting to see a lot of these guys they just had this dream to be wrestlers from such a young age. And it's so cool to see that they like, it was so regionalized back then that I feel like it was maybe a little bit easier to get into in the sense that like you could just get into a circuit a little bit easier than you maybe could now because everything is somehow, as we realized last week when we were, which we should touch on, Jim, actually.
We should.
We were in Davenport, Iowa for Mike's graduation from Augustana. There was what was it called again? It was AEW, or no, not that's the
No, I'm trying to find it right now.
SCW Pro. I think.
Yeah,
what it was
SCW
called,
Pro.
which was it was just a wrestling ring in the back of this bar, and there was 100+ people there watching Xander Killen take on Jim. What's the name? I always forget the big
Bush Light.
Mason Beck.
Oh no, Bush
Light was
Mason
earlier.
Bush Light were the tag teams.
But yeah, Xander Killen versus Mason Beck for the Iowa Wrestling Championship belt was pretty entertaining. So
It was super entertaining. He
but
still hasn't
even
got
that-
back to me, by the way.
what a guy, too big for our show, I guess. But even that connected to the WWE because the wrestling school that is tied in with that promotion is ran by Seth Rollins and some other guy, I think. I forget his name, who's in the WWE. But back then, when Shawn Michaels was coming up in early 80s, I guess, is when he first got into it. It was a little bit easier to get into it. And it was kind of interesting to see that he was so different from his in-ring character, like as a person, really.
Yeah.
Talked about how he was shy and introverted because obviously one of the most, if not maybe the most flamboyant character to ever come through
For sure.
WWE. But one thing that they touched on a lot that I think I thought was important was that also one of the best in-ring performers in the history of the promotion because
That's what Ric Flair said, and that means that says a lot coming from.
That's
Ric
what
Flair.
I mean. That's like the overall consensus.
right.
Flair says it. Austin says Flair is, but that Sean's like a close second. Obviously,
Yeah.
Triple H says it. That's like it's 1 and 2 between Flair and Michaels. I think Michaels, honestly, because I think he did so many different and so much more than Flair did. Like Flair had his basic, 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that he did. He did them in every match, and Michaels had his move set, but I feel like he would do some other stuff that was kind of outside the box and, not always throw it in. And, I think by far the best that we've ever seen for sure.
Definitely. And I actually went back. I took the opportunity this morning to show Kelly an important history lesson. And we watched the ladder match from WrestleMania 10 between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, which they referenced in this, which is what really kind of put Shawn Michaels in the eyes of like the fans and the company as a legitimate, option to kind of, build behind. And awesome match. And as we mentioned that, you can even tell just within the confines of that match how good he is compared to everyone else because there were times where Razor Ramon just looked so clunky with that ladder trying to hit Shawn Michaels, and maybe maybe to the chagrin of Scott Hall, but Shawn Michaels was just laying it on him with that ladder and just completely diving into the performance. And it's just awesome to watch. And I looked into it afterwards. That was the second ladder match in the WWF. It was the first one that they televised. So the first one was between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Actually, Shawn Michaels is in the first 4 ladder matches in WWF history. Him and Razor Ramon fought again at SummerSlam, and I forget who his 4th one was against, but
which makes sense because they alluded to how Shawn was one of the more athletic guys. He wasn't this 6'8", 280-pound dude.
No,
I mean, he was still. I noticed when he was younger, he seemed to be thicker.
More beefy.
Yeah, and then when he got to Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, he was still big, but he was more of a lean, athletic guy. And
for sure.
And you couldn't have had those matches with. I mean, you could have, but they wouldn't have looked as good as they did with 2 guys who were, Razor Ramon's height, who again, freak athlete, but not as agile, as Shawn Michaels, and
kind of looking bulky and then moving within the confines of of wrestling.
Right. And what makes those ladder matches fun are the look of their falling from. I mean, they are falling from huge heights, but when you have a 6'8" guy falling and a 6'1" guy falling, it looks like it's a lot higher when Shawn Michaels does it. Plus the theatrics he adds. I mean,
to
it
be
makes
able
sense
to
why he was
to be able to sell and to be able to even if he's falling off the 2nd rung of the ladder,
right?
He's making it so grandiose that you're like, oh my God, he got hit by a bus. Not to get ahead of anything, but they talk about in the Ultimate Warriors doc. So like the whole steroid thing and the whole, steroid scandal when it was illegal and all that stuff. And Vince was going through the lawsuit. They touch upon how at that point it was Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior who were like on top and on top part of the company. And when you look at those guys, you're like, oh, well, clearly these guys are juicing. Clearly these guys are doing steroids. So what do we have to do to kind of better our image? They got Bret Hart and they got guys like Shawn Michaels to kind of, carry the torch away from those big steroid freaks. So think about that and think about that in retrospect. Like if the steroid thing never happened and the scandal never happened and the Ultimate Warrior and Hogan weren't kind of like put off to the back burner to let Bret Hart and other guys that are smaller, more technical do their thing. Like, that could have kind of changed the entire landscape of everything too, where, maybe Bret Hart didn't get the push that he got. Maybe, Bret and Shawn wouldn't have the feud that they got. And like, look at the athletes and look at the performers that existed after the Hogan, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, all those big guys. Look at the athletes they had after. Small, athletic, fast, showman, like technical, all that stuff. So that was a big point that they brought up in the Warrior doc that I'm like, I wish it would have been like the other way around. I wish it would have been Warrior first and then Shawn Michaels. That way it would have like a good flow into it. But
that's a good point because his time was before. You're right. They should have kind of done it chronologically.
That's my only complaint about them. And I was going to touch upon that too, is my only complaint is the order of which they are doing them.
I mean, I thought it was kind of strange to premiere it with Stone Cold. I mean, because to most, I don't want to say to most people, to a lot of people, that's like, that should be your ending or close to your ending.
That's why they did it though, is because they figure most people would watch it at once.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And think about it, who would they,
so
like looking at it right now, I feel as though either, Piper would probably be first. And if the premiere is Piper, like think about you guys, like you even said, like this was the one that was the least,
right.
Stone Cold's opening up. You're like, okay, fuck, I'm in.
Exactly.
I'm in.
Right.
I mean, you're in regardless, but the casual fan might not, watch from the beginning.
Right. So they had to try and grab attention right
For
away,
sure.
which makes sense.
So Anthony, you mentioned too that the transition kind of from the big hulking superstar to the more like smaller athletic, and I thought that ladder match was the perfect representation of or kind of the perfect affirmation for the WWF to kind of move in that direction, because when you looked at it, Razor Ramon looks like what you would expect the dominant wrestler to look like. He's huge, he's strong, he just looks the part. And then Shawn Michaels looks the part too, but it's funny how they say, you know, Shawn's only 6'1", like 6'1" is some midget.
Exactly.
In the wrestling world at that time, that was pretty small. But when you watch them perform, you're like, Shawn Michaels is far better wrestler than this other guy. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't matter how big it is. And the only way that it's believable that a smaller guy is gonna, you know, kind of like kick the crap out of a bigger guy is if, like you said, he's more technically sound and is out there performing at a higher level. Like, my favorite part of that match was the first ladder shot. He puts it on the ring and he goes and he drop kicks the ladder through the bottom rope into, maybe it wasn't the first shot, but it was just, he was so creative with everything he's doing. And then Razor Ramon grabs the ladder and he's like clunkily barely touching Shawn's shoulder. And it's just, it really, you really gain a better appreciation for the art form that it is when you.
Well, I will say this too. I feel as though those weren't gimmick ladders back then. Like, I feel like the ladders now are a lot more gimmick. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm fairly confident they're not using little giant ladders, but they're definitely using ladders that have some, you know, some steel in them back then.
You know?
Yeah. Now they're aluminum. Now they're made out of the same shit that garbage cans are made out of. But yeah, that was a great match. You know, there wasn't as many, you know, obvious high spots in terms of like the TLC match where the Hardys are jumping off, you know, a 40-foot ladder and landing on 7 tables and all that stuff. Like, obviously that wasn't what they were doing. They didn't have that, you know, I think wherewithal yet to do that. But just like you said, like every hit of that ladder was solid. Everything was, it was.
That's funny that you mentioned that too, because then you look at like, this is the beginning of that evolution. It was like, you know, that
100%,
having him involved in those first few ladder matches was super important to how it ended up progressing to the point where it reached the table ladders and chairs, and it got really extreme like that because they saw like each time you kind of see what you can push. I know at the second ladder match between him and Razor Ramon at SummerSlam when he wins, I know he sweet chin musics him on one ladder, from one ladder to the next ladder. He sweet chin musics Razor Ramon off of it. So they definitely saw the potential and kept building on it. And I wanted to mention real quick too, the end of that ladder match is like one of the best in my, like the way that Razor Ramon grabs those belts and just falls on his back to clear desperation. Like he didn't even have the ladder in the right position, but that was when he's supposed to grab it. So it was just like, I'm yanking these motherfuckers down. It was
a great story.
If you guys haven't watched it, or any of our listeners, you guys should definitely check it out. I just searched it on YouTube or Google and it came up. You know, it's not hard to find.
And it goes to show you like the trust that, and here's the crazy part. So we haven't really touched upon the drug use and really how fucked up Shawn was throughout essentially his entire career.
Right.
But it goes to show you how much trust Vince had in him to have the first ladder match, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was in the first Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. Like he was in these crazy matches that were kind of revolutionary in terms of like, well, we don't really know how this is going to go. And, you know, we're introducing Kane and we're introducing this whole thing. And, you know, we need Shawn to perform at a very high level. But like, think about all of the demons and think about all of the crazy shit that he was doing that.
Right. So they need Shawn to perform at a really high level after Triple H brings him to his hotel room, takes the dip out of his mouth, undresses him. But like, that's how fucked up he was getting in between shows. But still to be able to come out and perform like that.
And think about,
pretty incredible.
Us as kids, like when you watch the videos now, you're like, holy shit, he was really messed up.
Yeah.
Like, you could see it in his eyes. You can see it in his body language. Like he was messed up. But as kids,
no idea.
You would no clue at all. It's crazy. That was like the one thing that I really, really took from this was like, dude, he was watching the clips back. You could definitely see like,
agreed.
You're basically, he's, you know, basically coked out of his mind and whatever.
So I wish that they actually would have dove into that a little bit more and explained it a little bit more, because that was some of my favorite stuff. Was just, I mean, you could tell, like, you could see how puffy his face was at times and just how like bloodshot his eyes were. And I wish they would have, and I know they only have 2 hours, and I'm sure they did talk about it and and painted. They wanted to paint a redemption picture, so you only do so much of it. But another thing that I caught was, when they did Rowdy Piper, they talked about how sad his life was, but I also think they were trying to paint this picture of like, oh, he's a family man. He's trying to go through these struggles. Well, they said at least twice that I remember about it, how Shawn was like, yeah, we'd be in the room, girls everywhere, drugs everywhere, and Piper would come in and he would, start to rile guys up, and if you catch those things, you can see how producers definitely have their own spin on things, because they made it seem like he's this, he's going home and he's taking a day at a hotel to get ready for his family. No, he's recovering from all the girls he was banging and blow that he was doing. So
without question.
So when you catch those two things, you can see how much influence producers have in how they want to paint a picture. I'm not saying that Piper wasn't a good family man, but it wasn't all like, oh, I have these demons, I can't wait to get home to my kids. It's
100%. Yeah,
I'm doing all this drugs and steroids and women, and then I'm going home.
Well, it's funny because even in just unveiling that story, it's almost just like a bad cover up where they're like, yeah,
right,
Roddy would come in and he would just try and rile everybody up as if he's not just there, like you said, as a part of the party with everybody else.
Exactly.
Like his sole purpose,
probably leading a party.
His sole purpose in showing up was to try and convince Shawn Michaels to go solo opposite Marty Jannetty or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Who
that
guy, right. Man, that guy's been to the ringer. Holy cow.
That guy sounds like every female that has smoked for 35 years that's ever been casted in a movie. The best way.
It's not good. Yeah, it's not good.
Has his tooth missing? He's always like, yeah.
Well,
man,
he's also he was notorious a few years ago for posting real cryptic, crazy tweets. If I'm not mistaken, I think I have to look this up, but I'm not mistaken, he admitted to a murder over a tweet. I'm 90% sure it was Marty Jannetty. I'll have to look it up.
You know what? That sounds really familiar. Now that you're saying that,
I'm pretty sure he accidentally he's like, yeah, back at this time when I murdered that kid, or it's something crazy where he was like, Marty, are you okay? What? I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was really well done, and I like how, so for the first, I don't know, hour or so, I had no idea he was married with kids. I mean, yeah. I thought it was really cool how they set that up for that reveal, because I had no clue. And I'm glad. So again, like we said, the continuity, it'd have been great to have him come. You touch on the Montreal screw job, and then go right into Bret Hart, so you can expand on that. But we have what, 2 in between, or just 1? We have Warrior coming up, and then it's Bret Hart.
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
No, Mick Foley still.
Yeah.
Okay, so right,
Mick
so
Foley.
we have that pretty big gap in between. I think it would have been cool to have explored that from Shawn's point of view, and then right away from Bret.
That's what I'm saying. That's my only complaint about this, is that they should have done that a little bit different in terms of that. But maybe, honestly, maybe they're not touching upon certain things like that, maybe they're not touching upon the connections between, we'll just have to see with the Bret Hart. I mean, obviously I feel like they have to talk about the feud with Shawn Michaels. I don't know if they'll talk about Owen Hart, because I know that Bret refused to, again, for Dark Side of the Ring, Bret refused to comment on the Owen Hart story, because he didn't like the way Dark Side portrayed the Montreal screw job when they did it, but they did an outstanding job. Bret Hart, I'm really excited for the Bret Hart one, just to give my opinions and my thought process on him, because he's definitely a quirky individual in terms of wrestling, and I'm excited to give you guys my 2 cents on that.
I mean, just seeing, obviously, these guys are into it. This is their livelihood, but he spit on Mr. McMahon and punched him after that match. So I clearly irate with the way that things went down. But when you're going to be on another promotion the next day, what does he expect? They're just going to let you leave with the title? I mean,
well, especially since other people already burned him in that same regard.
right.
You know,
Like Nash and
well, no, it's the whole title thing. So the big thing with that, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the big thing with that was the women's champion, Alundra Blaze. She brought her title after she won in Jump Promotion, and remember she threw it in the garbage. If you look that up, like she came out and she's like, I'm here now, and threw her Medusa was her name in WCW. She threw her title in the garbage, and Vince McMahon's like, I don't think Bret Hart's going to do that. I think he has more respect and more class for the business than that, but I can't take that chance, especially with the WWF title, the winged eagle like that. That would have destroyed the company. The company would have been done after that. So he's like, we can't allow this to happen.
Triple H opened up, about how they were getting their asses kicked by WCW.
Yeah,
pretty much at the time before they started doing the Degeneration X stuff, and it was like, they had poached all those people from the WWF, and they were really actually building up a solid promotion. And then obviously paired with Austin, there was just kind of do whatever we got to do to ruffle the feathers.
I like Triple H's take on the curtain call, and he's like, well, Hall and Nash, they're gone, so Vince can't get mad at them. They're not gonna suspend and be mad at Shawn Michaels because he's Shawn Michaels. Like, so the apparent fall guy in the whole situation was me. I was the guy that whose career took a completely different trajectory because of that.
Which obviously we saw then led to Austin.
Yeah, right. Obviously he's doing fine now, but
career trajectory though still.
Right. But think again, and it's crazy like how, again, the whole like everything happens for a reason, everything. So fine. Triple H doesn't get in trouble for the curtain call. He goes on to win the King of the Ring. Stone Cold doesn't do what he does.
Right. Doesn't cut that promo.
Triple H kind of fizzles out as, King of the Ring winner and doesn't really do anything to, like, where would we be now? Right. So like everything had to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. This conversation would not be happening. There would not be, you know what I mean? It's like
which we now found out that it was a kid and his friend who snuck in the camera and videoed it.
I'm glad.
And it wasn't even on live TV.
Yeah, that was awesome. I enjoyed that little tidbit. I did not know that.
I never realized is that they have taped WWF matches that have never aired. Like, I didn't even realize. I just thought everything they filmed went on TV. I didn't even realize, because like I said, the first ladder match is between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and it was at one of those like in your house or something, but it never actually aired on television.
It seems like now, as I think it is with all sports and with people who put their bodies on the line, there's a lot less wrestling going on. Like, they would do Monday Night Raw, I think a Tuesday house show. They would do SmackDown, a Saturday house show, and then Sunday Night Heat. So they were filming, and now it just seems like it's Monday, Thursday, and then whatever
Friday now, actually.
Oh yeah, Friday, Monday, Friday, I'm whatever pay-per-view it is.
I'm pretty sure, Jimmy, that I'm pretty sure they were doing house shows every day that they weren't on television.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you
might, because like I remember there was a few times that I went to shows at the Rosemont.
Yeah, that weren't on TV. It was
on a Tuesday night. It wasn't taped. It wasn't Raw. You know what I mean? Like, so I like that. I think that's the whole, and maybe with the travel and all that stuff, but like, but back in the day, it was, we'd tape our show on Monday when it was live. Mm-hmm. We would drive to, Indiana that night and have our show in Indiana. And then we'd have another show in Southern Indiana.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, it's different now, I think, because of like the Performance Center and because they can go practice and they can go do their shit there. But basically the house shows, it was, if you and I had the main event on Raw or on, say Raw, our Friday, Saturday, Sunday house show,
like rehearsal
is us doing that. Exactly that. And every now and then it would be a weird thing where it'd be like, all right, well, we're going to take the belt off. Like Diesel won his first championship on a house show, and I think lost it like the next night or something weird happened.
Yeah, they mentioned for the what was it, the Rock
Midnight Rockers?
Rockers, yeah, they won one tag team title, and then they decided not to go through with it because the ring broke.
The ring broke.
And think about so like the whole Bret Hart thing. Bret is like a business guy first. He wanted to stop the match because he knew that it was being taped. Put him in a headlock. I'll have him in a headlock. Fix the goddamn ring. That way we can finish the match and do what we're supposed to do. And they squashed that. They ended up winning, and then they're like, well, you guys never won. We're gonna go ahead and take those belts from like, so it's I love like the little intricate workings of the business in that regard. Like that stuff to me is so fascinating.
Me too. Love the behind the scenes stuff.
Because at the time too, when we're watching this, we're so much younger. So all this is pretty much going over our heads anyway.
100%.
We're resistant to the fact that it's fake. And when people say fake, that it's like planned out and acted. But it's like, even hearing that when we were watching it back then was like, no, that's like someone telling me Santa wasn't real.
Right.
He's not.
He's real.
Yeah, it was
all of a sudden, Jim, that could have been.
What'd you say?
A good thing that wasn't one of those times media just randomly.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, it was really well done. And I also enjoy the different points of view. So we've now heard that Stone Cold tried to have the family, but made a decision to just do wrestling. We saw how Shawn Michaels was like, well, I can't have both, so I'm just going to be a wrestler. And the path that let him down. And we saw how Piper had his, how both Macho Man and HBK couldn't turn off their personas. They were always that guy all the time. Booker T's story started the worst and seems to have ended the best for sure so far, where he has a family and he seemed to kind of go out on his own terms, and he's still involved, and he doesn't look like, I mean, I'm sure he's sore and has his ailments, but he doesn't look like.
I would say Shawn Michaels has a pretty good ending too.
He does. He does. It just seems like Booker didn't go through everything Shawn Michaels went through. Well, in terms of, I'm sure he went through it, being a black wrestler in the deep south of Texas. He had his own issues that he had to go through. This was more
about his upbringing, where Shawn Michaels is more about what he put himself through.
Right, because his upbringing was
exactly,
and he said that he's like, I had a great upbringing, parents, siblings,
military family,
stable household.
Could have done it, and the fact that his dad also, that was cool when they showed his dad talking.
I wish they would have touched on that more. How his dad took a chance on him and gave him the 3K, and
he wanted to be a wrestler, and he wasn't really for it, but didn't want to live with that regret that like his son would. Hold it against him, didn't ever give him an opportunity. So that was cool.
My other assumption was those were old interviews. So either A, his parents are not alive, or B, they didn't want to be filmed for this for various reasons.
Interesting.
So real quick, in the original, now deleted Facebook post, Jannetty recalled working at a bowling alley when he was 13 years old, where he would buy marijuana from a coworker. He put his hands on me. He dragged me around the back of the building. You already know what you're going to do, Jannetty wrote. That was the first time I made a man disappear. They never found him. They should have looked in the Chattahoochee River. That was his.
At 13
in detail.
Yeah, that was his Facebook post. And then I guess he went crazy and was like, it was
I got hacked.
No, he said it was he's like, I did not murder that man. It was the beginning of a wrestling storyline. Oh my God, didn't the world buy it? Blah, blah, blah. And made it out to be. And then the police launched an investigation on the murder, something crazy. And I was reading this. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, that's is
wild.
Yeah. So he's definitely off his rocker.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Wow. I mean, really? I can tell by the interview.
Off his rocker. Really?
No, I got it. Yeah, it was good. I
would have liked a better response than that, James.
I'm sorry.
I went over my head. My bad. Okay, real quick before we close up here, I planned a little game for you guys.
Ooh, I like games.
I love games.
It's all about the game and how you play it.
Yes.
The Battle of the Bulge. So I'm gonna text you a couple different photos. We'll do it in order of close up. Zoomed in pictures of wrestling.
Easy.
Bulges.
Got it. Start easy and then get a little bit more difficult, and we'll see who.
You mean start easy and get a little bit more hard?
I'm so bad at the setups right now. My head is not in it. You guys should be leading. Okay. First one, and whoever just blurts it out, we'll give them that point. This is a layup, so it's pretty much whoever has better cell connection.
Okay.
Mr. Ass.
Yes, badass Billy Gunn.
Okay.
Not a great bulge though.
Not You know what?
Well, because he's all ass. That's why.
Fair. That's a good
True.
point.
Okay. Second one, a little bit more difficult, maybe.
Val Venus.
Val Venus.
Oh, okay. Jimmy Newt. Tone's got better.
Jimmy Newt. I knew Jimmy Newt. That you definitely know when the person's just copying what you say.
Okay, last
Pretty
one.
good bulge.
Viscera. I'm just kidding. Triple H.
Yup.
Triple. Yeah,
Tone's
damn
got
it.
those bulges.
That was
Dude, you
I
come
was
on. You're
way long
yeah.
on that one.
You know what?
Nah.
It's okay. I know those are all pretty easy, but it's either there's a symbol on there that gives it away, or it's just black.
Yeah.
True.
And I don't mean like the wiener. I mean just the
Booker T.
cereal. I couldn't even send.
I would have been right with
Way too
Viscera.
obvious. All right.
Yeah, I would be way too good at that. Even if you gave me Goldberg and Stone Cold, I would know it. I would know.
Battle of the Bulge. That's fantastic.
I like it a lot.
The best part is I got
One of the better
phone,
games on this show.
yesterday.
What'd you get to 12?
12 Pro.
Oh,
And
nice.
now
I like it.
now all it has is wrestling dick pics on
Oh,
it.
it's funny. I took some pictures of Kelly earlier, and then Alyssa was just looking at my photos. She's like, "Why are there picture zoomed photos of?" Like, it's for the
Props.
show. Okay, it's for the show. I'm not.
And then she's like, "Who
Don't
the
look at
hell
my
is
Google
Val?
searches.
Who the hell is Val Venus? Spelled Venis."
I just came out in a towel.
Oh god, it is.
Hello, ladies.
That is
All right.
the best.
We're gonna wrap it up there. We got a
Love it.
couple more episodes left of the series, and again, we're gonna finish with a live show whenever
We should definitely start doing wrestling music as batting music for the Bandits before we come
Didn't
up.
we try that? Oh no, we tried that with the.
talked about it.
We
We
tried
talked
it.
about it.
I tried that with a different league, and then it got old very quick.
Also, quick
Did it?
quick update. I brought the Brotherhood wrestling video to a place in Naperville to have the VHS digitized, and 8-week turnaround time. So
Jesus.
we're looking late July, early August for the day.
Oh, you went through with it?
Yeah, I went through it. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to go anywhere else. I already drove here, so
Yeah,
Makes sense.
stay tuned for that.
for sure.
If you don't already, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Bros Let's Talk. You can find our podcasts on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. It lives at anchor.fm/Bros Let's Talk. And our website is brosletstalk.com. For Jimmy, Anthony, this is Pat. Later, dudes.
See you guys.
Hey, bros.
It's been a pleasure.